Before the world was washed clean, before oceans swallowed the earth and silence fell upon creation, there was a single man who dared to believe. Amid corruption and chaos, his faith became the vessel that would carry all life through judgment's waters. This is the story of Noah, the man who walked with God, and the flood that changed the destiny of humanity forever. In the earliest days, when the world was still young and the breath of creation clung to the air, humanity flourished upon the earth. They built cities and tilled the ground, multiplied and filled the land with their works. Yet with their rise came corruption. Pride crept into their hearts like a shadow over the sun. Greed and violence spread through their veins, and the harmony once woven between man and Creator unraveled strand by strand. The children of dust forgot the one who had breathed life into their lungs. They built idols of stone and chased desires without end, and the earth groaned beneath the weight of their wickedness. But amid the darkness stood one man whose heart beat in rhythm with the divine will, Noah. He was not mighty in power nor crowned with wealth, yet his faith was steadfast. While others mocked the heavens, Noah walked with God, hearing his whispers in the wind and his guidance in the stillness of dawn. Through him, a plan was set into motion, a plan to cleanse the earth, to drown its corruption beneath purifying waters, and to preserve the seed of creation for a new beginning. The voice of the Eternal stirred within Noah's soul, revealing a vision of waters rising beyond the tallest mountains, of skies weeping for 40 days and nights, of life renewed upon the soil of a reborn world. Noah's heart trembled at the enormity of the task, yet he did not waver. He would build the vessel that would carry life through wrath, an ark, immense and unyielding, crafted not by human ambition, but by divine command. Noah rose with the dawn each day, the weight of divine instruction resting heavily upon his shoulders. He measured wood and shaped beams, his hands roughened by labor, but guided by purpose. Around him, the people mocked and jeered. They laughed at the sight of a man building a colossal vessel far from the sea, calling him a fool, a dreamer, a madman. Yet Noah's resolve was unshaken. For every hammer strike was an act of faith, each plank a testament to obedience. He worked not for the approval of men, but for the promise of life yet to come. The ark grew, vast and mighty, a towering fortress of gopher wood sealed with pitch, capable of carrying the breath of creation itself. It stretched 300 cubits in length, rising like a monument against the darkening skies. Within its chambers, room was made for beasts of every kind, for creeping things and birds of the air, for the seeds of trees and the grains of the earth. Noah's sons labored beside him, their hearts drawn into the sacred work, while his wife and daughters-in-law prepared stores of food and water to sustain what would live within. As the years passed, the ark stood completed, silent yet powerful, a vessel of mercy in a world racing toward judgment. Still the people refused to heed Noah's warning. Their hearts were deaf to the call of repentance, their eyes blind to the gathering signs. The skies began to change, clouds thickening like a curtain drawn over creation. Winds shifted, and the earth seemed to hold its breath. Even the animals stirred with an ancient awareness, as though some instinct whispered that their survival depended on the wooden giant that stood ready in the valley. The aroma of Noah's offering rose into the heavens, and the heart of God was moved with compassion. Though humanity's nature had not changed, though the seed of sin still lingered within their hearts, the Creator vowed never again to destroy all life by flood. Instead, he set a sign in the sky, a covenant stretched across the clouds in a brilliant arc of color. It was the first rainbow, radiant and divine, a bridge between heaven and earth, a promise sealed by mercy. Whenever the rains would fall, humanity would look upon that bow and remember that even in judgment, God's love endures. The world was new yet ancient, familiar yet transformed. Rivers carved new paths, valleys were reshaped, and the soil was rich with the memory of the flood. Noah and his family began their sacred duty to repopulate the earth, to steward creation once more, to build a civilization that would remember the lessons of the waters. Vineyards were planted, fields were sown, and the rhythm of life returned. Humanity had been given a second chance. Yet the story of the flood was not merely one of destruction and renewal. It was a mirror, a reflection of the human soul. The waters had washed the earth, but they could not cleanse the heart. The same temptations that had led to ruin still slumbered within mankind's spirit, waiting for their hour to awaken. The flood was both an end and a beginning, a reminder that salvation is not merely escape from wrath, but transformation from within. Noah, the man who had walked with God, now walked the fields of a reborn world. He was a patriarch, a farmer, a living bridge between the world that was and the world that is. His story would echo across generations, a beacon of faith in the face of mockery, obedience in the midst of doubt, and hope when all seemed lost. And though the ark would one day fade into legend, its message would remain, that one person's faith can save the world. As seasons passed and generations grew, the memory of the flood became both a warning and a guiding light. Children gathered at night to hear the tale of how their ancestors had survived the wrath of the waters. They spoke of the ark as if it were a living thing, a vessel not only of flesh but of faith. The rainbow became a sacred sign in their stories, a symbol not just of God's promise, but of humanity's responsibility to walk in harmony with the divine order. Yet time, ever relentless, moved forward. The hearts of men, though shaped by the memory of judgment, began once again to lean toward pride. They built cities and forged empires, their ambitions stretching beyond the heavens. And though the earth would never again be destroyed by water, humanity's choices would still carry weight. The story of Noah was not the end. It was a foundation, a sacred chapter in a greater narrative still unfolding. Beneath the surface of this story lies a deeper truth, that the flood is not merely history but metaphor. It is the cleansing of the soul, the washing away of what corrupts, and the emergence of something purer on the other side. Every storm that comes, every trial that rises against us, holds within it the chance for rebirth. Like Noah's ark, we too must build vessels, not of wood, but of faith and perseverance, to carry us through the tempests of life. In the silence that followed the flood, the earth hummed with quiet hope. The winds that once howled with fury now whispered through the leaves, carrying the scent of renewal. Life began its patient march once more, birds weaving nests, rivers carving paths, and humanity planting roots in the soil of a second chance. The great flood was over, but its legacy would endure forever. And so, the story of Noah's Ark stands not only as a testament to divine power, but also as a profound reflection on human nature. It reminds us that destruction is not always an end. Sometimes it is the beginning of something new. The world that emerged from the flood was quieter, humbler, and filled with potential. It was a canvas wiped clean, awaiting the brushstrokes of a new chapter in humanity's journey. Noah himself lived many years after the flood, watching his children and grandchildren spread across the land. He saw villages become towns, and towns grow into nations. He saw humanity rediscover its purpose, to tend, to nurture, and to honor the creation entrusted to it. Yet he also saw glimpses of old patterns returning, a reminder that free will remains both a gift and a test. But even in humanity's stumbles, the covenant remained. The rainbow would continue to stretch across the skies, a silent yet vivid declaration that grace is stronger than wrath. It told of a God who, despite humanity's flaws, still chooses mercy. And it told of a man who, in the face of the impossible, built something that would carry the future on its wooden beams. The Great Flood became a story passed down through millennia, not just as myth or memory, but as a living truth that speaks to every generation. It calls us to reflect on what must be washed away within ourselves, and what must be preserved and carried forward. It calls us to trust in promises that transcend the storm. Above all, it calls us to remember that even when the waters rise, there is always an ark, and always a way to the other side. In the end, the tale of Noah's Ark is a story not just of the past, but of the present and future. Every soul faces its own flood, times when the world seems submerged beneath trials, when darkness threatens to swallow all that is good. But just as Noah built his ark plank by plank in faith, so too must we build our own vessels, with patience, with trust, with unwavering belief that we are not abandoned. The storm is never the final word. Beyond the deluge, there is always dry land. Beyond the judgment, there is always grace. Beyond the rainbow, there is always a covenant that stands unbroken. Noah's story reminds us that faith does not remove the storm, it carries us through it. It teaches that obedience is not a burden, but a path to salvation. And it reveals that even in humanity's darkest hour, light still breaks through the clouds. The same God who called Noah to build an ark calls us to build hope, to preserve life, and to trust in promises yet unseen. As the waters receded and the sun shone upon a cleansed world, creation took its first breath anew. It was not the end of the story, it was a new beginning. And from that moment on, humanity would forever remember that when the heavens open and the floods rise, there is always a way home. The sun climbed higher into the sky, its golden rays spilling over valleys that had once been submerged. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of renewal, and the rivers sang softly as they threaded through the new landscapes. Every leaf that unfurled, every creature that stirred from its den, was a hymn of life reborn. Humanity had survived its reckoning. The ark had done more than preserve flesh and bone. It had carried forward the story of existence itself, a bridge between the old world and the new. Noah's family, humbled by all they had witnessed, lived with a deeper reverence for the Creator. Their prayers were softer now, less filled with requests and more with gratitude. They spoke to their children of the rain that once fell endlessly, of the waters that once rose without mercy, and of the rainbow that followed. A promise that even in wrath, love does not abandon. These stories were more than memories. They were foundations. Through them, generations yet unborn would understand that the path of righteousness, though narrow and difficult, is the one that leads to life. But the tale of Noah was not just a chronicle of salvation. It was a mirror held up to humanity's eternal struggle, the battle between our higher calling and our basest instincts. The flood had shown that unchecked corruption leads only to ruin, yet it also revealed the staggering depth of mercy that waits for those who turn back. It is a lesson that echoes across ages. No matter how deep the waters of chaos may rise, they cannot drown out the possibility of redemption. And so the ark, though it would one day crumble and fade into dust, remained immortal in its meaning. It was not merely a vessel of wood. It was the embodiment of hope, obedience, and unwavering faith. It was the proof that a single act of trust in the divine can change the course of history, preserving the future in the darkest hour. Millennia later, the story of Noah and the great flood still speaks to the human heart. It is whispered in sacred texts and retold in countless tongues, a timeless reminder of the fragility and resilience of life. Empires have risen and fallen, knowledge has grown vast, and humanity has walked on distant worlds. Yet the essence of Noah's story remains as vital as ever. For we still build our own arks, and we still weather our own storms. Sometimes those floods are not of water but of fear, doubt, or despair. They come as trials that test our faith, moments when the world seems to crumble beneath us. But the lesson remains, build. Build the vessel that will carry you through, with courage, with perseverance, with trust. And as the rains fall and the waves rise, know that there is purpose in every storm. The rainbow still arches across the sky, unbroken and eternal. It is a silent covenant written in light, a message from Creator to creation. Though the waters rise, I will not abandon you. Though the earth trembles, my mercy endures. It reminds us that beyond every tempest lies calm, beyond every ending lies a new beginning. And so the story closes where it began, with humanity standing once again on dry ground, gazing toward the horizon of possibility. The arc rests, its purpose fulfilled, but the journey of humankind continues, guided by faith, tempered by trial, and forever watched over by the one who commands the winds and the waters. We step forward. For the tale of Noah is not just about a flood that once was. It is about the storms that will always come, and the promise that we will never face them alone.